Committee. Senator Inhofe, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Jim.
How are your little boys?
My little boys, all 13 feet up, and they're fine.
Okay, good.
They're fine. That Marine is first lieutenant now out in
I'm-
Pendleton, and the other one is doing good.
you
Moving
got
that.
to. We're both proud.
Yes, we are. It's 9/11, Jim. 12 years ago today. You remember where you were?
Yeah, Bill. Once a year, the Oklahoma Chamber of Commerce comes to Washington, and that happened to be the day. And on the ninth floor of the Hart Building, and you're familiar with that, it's the tallest building in the Capitol complex. I was speaking to him, and I was looking out this great big window, but they were looking at me, and I saw this plume of smoke come up, and I didn't have any idea what it was. And of course, that was the bomb. That was the hit of the Pentagon. And I always remember that because I actually saw it happening, but didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then all those people trying to figure out ways to get back to Oklahoma and all the chaos that took place at that
Yes,
time.
sir. Yes, sir. I do.
Yeah, well, I think we all remember.
Yeah. Let's talk about last night, the president's speech. Your position on the strike, Syria strike.
Well, first of all, as I think you're aware, I was the first member that came out just adamantly opposed the use of force, but for a different reason than anyone else has talked about. And it really bothers me that for 4.5 years I've talked about the biggest problem that we have from Obama, and yet nobody understands it, nobody believes it. And I do want to answer your question as to what happened, what my response was last night, but let me just have a predicate here. I knew when the president came into office the first time that he was going to be very anti-defense, the most anti-defense president probably will ever have had. And so I went over when he gave his budget announcement. This is 4.5 years ago, Bill, and I don't think you and I have ever talked about this. I went to Afghanistan knowing that with the tanks going back and forth that I could have the attention of the American people when I responded to his budget message. And so I did, and it worked. We got national attention on it. In that first budget, he did away with our only fifth-generation fighter, the F-22, our lift capacity, the C-17, the FCS, which is the first major stride forward in ground capability, did away with the ground-based interceptor in Poland. That was all just the first the part of disarming of America. Now, since then, his projected budget's taken $487 billion out of the military, and that his sequestration would take out another $500 billion. So what I'm saying is we have a hollow force today, Bill. We don't have the capability, and it's not just me saying this. So when I came out opposed to the use of force, my reason at that time was I'm not naive enough to think you can throw in a bunch of cruise missiles and wash your hands and walk away. It doesn't happen that way. It would be there would be a war. And I've got two quotes I want to give you because people say, Inhofe, you're wrong. You're an extremist. So if you take Admiral Winnefeld, now he is the vice chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, appointed by Obama. He said, and this is a direct quote, Bill, there could be, for the first time in my career, instances where we may be asked to respond to a crisis, and we will have to say we cannot. Then General Dempsey, who's the top guy, the top military guy, again appointed by Obama, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he said, our military force is so degraded, so unready, it would be immoral to use force. Now, why is it that nobody responds to that? Nobody seems to care.
And when did he say that? When did he say that?
Oh, that was just in the last month.
Okay.
That was actually before a committee. I can give you the exact dates.
Wow.
But Bill, this is what we've been saying for 4.5 years. We saw it coming. And now we have sequestration. Well, 18% of our budget is having to absorb 50% of the cuts in it. And so my original opposition to this thing was because we have used up our military. You go over there and sit down in the mess hall in Afghanistan or any place and talk to these kids. Well, you talk to your own son. He's and all of his friends. And they'll tell you that they don't have the resources over there. They don't have the equipment up in good repair and all of this. So we have a very serious problem. We cannot afford. You remember, and I remember, all the years since World War II, our strategy or our policy has been to defend America on two regional fronts. It's not worded exactly right, but now we're down where we can't do it even one. And so that's the problem that we have that nobody wants to address that I think is very significant.
president's spokesman at the Defense Department, or was it State Department? I can't remember. When asked about this, you'll recall, it was in the last week or so, they said, how can you do this with budget cuts, sequester? He said, well, when we're called on to do it, we do it. We find a way to do it. Are you saying that we couldn't pull off a strike against Syria?
No, we could pull off a strike. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
Sending in cruise missiles, we could do that. That's nothing. That didn't take any resources. Okay. If that precipitates a war where we have to go in which I believe that is what would happen. That's what we couldn't do. It's frustrating to me because.
Go ahead.
Well, that no one believes this, and to sit here and to know what's going on, and even having the backing of the agreement of the people who are in charge of the whole military, and people still don't want to. What did he say last night about this? He talked about, and for the hour that he talked to us, are you aware that he came to the first the Democrat, then the Republican conference yesterday? And he was at our conference for an hour, and we sat there and listened to him talk about this strength, and this is nothing for us. And we had the strongest and the biggest military in the history of this country, and it went on and on talking that way. And again last night, talking about how the pinprick and the thing that I noticed last night was he went a complete circle. He completed the circle. He went from retribution. That's all he's been talking about, to all of a sudden. And I think the mistake he made was he reminded everyone of his statement about looking the other way. And all of a sudden now he's looking the other way.
Exactly. No, he changed the terms. I was pointing this out. The whole thing was about punishing them for what they did. Mm-hmm. And now all is to be forgotten and forgiven if they just promise to give up these weapons.
Yeah.
One of our callers says, a guy, admits to murder and says, but okay, here's my gun. And you say, all right, never mind, forget it.
Yeah. Well, it's just retreating from his previous. Although he was in a situation where he had to do something because he wasn't going the right way, and Kerry wasn't any help either.
Was it going to go down in the Senate?
Oh, absolutely.
Was it?
Yeah, it was going to get, and of course the House and the Senate. Now they're saying the strategy I hear, just kind of the behind closed doors strategy, is, well, we can just get it passed in the Senate, and then we can go ahead and do it. And I think now they'll realize they couldn't get it passed in the Senate. Right now you have several members of the Senate trying to put conditions in under which we are going to use force.
Right.
But that's something that should have, if he was going to do that, politically speaking, he should have gone ahead and done that back when he had a little bit of force behind him. We're talking to Senator Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma. He will stay with us another segment. If you have questions for the senator, give us a call, 866-680-6464. I just want to be clear on your argument. Your argument is you're opposed to doing it maybe for other reasons too, but one reason is if it should lead to a wider war, we're not ready for it. Oh, yes, that's true. But no, I don't want to minimize all the other arguments against it. I was one of them leading the opposition unsuccessfully against sending people into Bosnia and to Kosovo. And very much, no sense going into that. It was nothing compared to what has happened to the military in the last 4.5 years. Right. And you have a number of other reasons for opposing this strike. Well, of course, yeah. Yeah. Is it your sense that, we're talking about conventional weapons here, notice that Putin, who's now our deal maker, our designated deal maker, has said the U.S. must forswear the use of force. He does, however, does not have to. And as we read this morning, he is sending more troops into, or more material into Syria, and apparently helping Iran as well. He's the chief supplier of the to give Assad that ability. But I'm glad you said Iran, because that's the other thing that people don't understand. Our intelligence, our unclassified intelligence, has said since 2007 that by 2015 that Iran will have not just the weapon but the delivery mechanism. That's a year and a half from now. Yeah. And this is nothing new. That we've been saying this since back then. So I look at Iran as being the threat, certainly far more than Syria. However, I might also add that through the 75% of the revenue that goes into Iran goes from their sale, their export of oil and gas. Okay. And so that if we could cut that off, it'd be easy to create an additional problem for Assad.
We'll be back with Senator Inhofe. Stay with us. It's Morning in America. Back with Senator Jim Inhofe, the United States Senator from Oklahoma, ranking member of Senate Armed Services, and we're talking about armed services. Senator Inhofe has pointed out on the occasion of this discussion about Syria, the parlous condition of our armed forces. Jim, my question is this. You know it. You know it to be true. You have tried to tell the country. You point out this admiral appointed by the president knows it. You point out General Dempsey, the chairman, knows it and has said so. Why doesn't the president know it, or why can't he be told this and informed that this is a national crisis when he's there at the meeting with you all yesterday telling you how strong we are? Could this not be brought up, and could he not be challenged? Maybe you got rules for that kind of meeting or something. But if this is a fact, why isn't it being blared from the roof?
That's I wish I had the answer to that, because it's so frustrating for me for all these years to have been seeing it coming, knowing this time would come that we're facing right now, and not have I'm just glad that at least I have others joining in and saying it's true. When General Dempsey says that, again, I repeat it, our military force is so degraded and so unready, it would be immoral to use force. And that's it. Now, he's actually in a position where he's recommending that. And obviously, we all know that he has to answer to his commander-in-chief. So it's something that I have tried unsuccessfully to get across for 4.5 years now. And it's just, for some people just don't want to believe it, I guess.
What about these?
And he went on and re-emphasized the strength of our military, both at the meeting at noon yesterday and last night on TV.
Against the rules to bring it up at the meeting for you to say, sir, it just isn't true?
Oh, no. We could do that. In a closed meeting where you have you have 5 people who in advance wanted to have their questions answered, but and wasn't able to get that in. But nonetheless, we have many times. I've done this on at the hearings that we have.
Sure.
The armed services, the hearings, and we have the people representing the president. And I've said, why is it that you don't admit that the real critical problem? Is it because you know that people just won't believe it? So anyway, there's every reason not to use force, and I agree with all of those reasons, but the major reason is we can't get into another involvement.
I'm just curious. There are some people who write for the Washington Post, Brookings, others, experts on military affairs. No, they don't see this. People who are somewhat sympathetic to the military, if not to the administration.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Although a lot of them are. You've had several guests on there who have told you that the wrong emphasis on this.
Okay.
But now we're turning around and again, John Kerry. I'm the wrong one to evaluate the performance of John Kerry during this whole thing. They kind of turned it over to him early. I was one of 2 of the votes who voted against his confirmation, so I guess I'm a little bit biased to start with. But his forced anxiety didn't work.
Yeah. Quickly, Bill in Cleveland wants to take objection here to what Senator said.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, Senator, first, thanks for your service. I know governing's hard. I just read that in Reuters that the Defense Department's going to spend $7 billion on windmills and alternative energy. Do you think that might be an issue that might get some interest if you got people in front of the Senate to try and explain why windmills are more important than bullets?
Oh, my gosh, Bill, you're my perfect shill. All right, you got to give me time to answer this now, Bill, because this is see. Obama has 3 different ways of degrading our military. One is through the cuts, another's through the delays. He delayed 179 F-35s for 2 years, and of course 2 years come by, and he'll delay them again. That's the same as a cut. But the other thing he does is he puts his liberal environmental agenda into the military budget. And how many times have I said this over and over again, that in 2009 he spent $424 a gallon for 20,000 gallons of fuel. In 2011, 450,000 gallons at $27 a gallon that you can buy on the market for $3 a gallon. He's building this stuff that our caller is talking about. Yeah, the windmills and all that, that should be in the energy budget if it's going to be in any budget. But he wants to put his agenda into the military budget. This guy who called in is exactly right. I'm glad he mentioned that.
Thank you, Jim Inhofe. Thank you, Senator. Thanks for standing up. Thank you very much. We
You bet.
appreciate you.
Thank you, Bill.